Okay, we have to discuss the trade, which is based on product differentiation. Okay, so you see, product could be similar, that is, they could be homogeneous, they could be different, they could be differentiated. Okay, so if you remember in your microeconomics, you studied different market structure. There was one market structure which was perfect competition, and in perfect competition, the product which was produced by different firms, they were similar or homogeneous. Okay. Then so far the trade theories which we discuss, they use different products. You know, we use X and Y. So X is a different product from Y. So we also have different products like computer and printer. These are two different products. And then air condition and refrigerator. There's two different products. Okay. Motor car and computer, they are different products. Okay. So then here we have differentiated product. So this means the product are differentiated by quality, color, design, or trademark. So then if the products are differentiated, trade could also be based and it would be mutually beneficial. Like in motor cars, we have differentiated product. You can see that Honda and Toyota and Mitsubishi's car, and then Ferrari, Lamborghini, all these, you know. So they are differentiated. Okay, actually they are a car, no? But they are differentiated by quality, color, design, trademarks, so all these. And so trade could also be based. So this type of, when there is a trade of differentiated product, so it is called intra-industry trade. When there is a trade of different product, that is called inter-industry trade. Okay, so here, because the products are differentiated, so it is called intra-industry trade. So far we discussed the trade of different product, that was inter-industry trade. Now it is intra-industry trade. So the trade of differentiated product. There is a trade, intra-industry trade between Japan and United States. So Japan export Toyota car to US, and US export Ford to Japan. So same Germany, there is a trade between Germany and Japan. So German, they export their car to Japan, and Japan export their car to German. So actually they are car, but they are differentiated. Okay. Same is the trade between France and Japan and US and Germany, all this. So this could also be a reason, just like we discussed the Leontief paradox and we come up with a paradoxical situation. So before that, it was thought that trade is only a different product. But now we can see in the real world, trade is not only for different product, trade is also for differentiated product, and it is mutually beneficial. And why there is intra-industry trade? Why there is a trade of differentiated product? Because it allows the producers to exploit product specific economies of scale. So Japanese, they are producing Toyota car on a large scale, so their average total cost is very low. In US, they are producing their car at a large scale, so they have economies of scales. Do you remember what is economies of scale? Anyone can answer? Yes. What is economies of scale? You studied economies of scale, diseconomies of scale. No answer? Can you hear me? Yes, मेरी आवाज़ आ रही है?
Yes sir, आ रही है.
तो फिर इसका मतलब है आपको आंसर आप लोगों को नहीं आ रहा. इकोनॉमीज ऑफ स्केल उस वक्त होगा व्हेन वी प्रोड्यूस मोर आउटपुट एंड एवरेज टोटल कॉस्ट डिक्रीजेस, देन वी से देयर एग्जिस्ट इकोनॉमीज ऑफ स्केल. Or if we produce more output and average total cost also increases, then it is called diseconomies of scale. And if we produce more output and there is no change in average total cost, then it is called constant returns to scale. Okay, so this is the reason where they have economies of scale. That's why there is inter-industry trade, and also it allows consumer to benefit from product variety. So there are Japanese who likes German car, who likes French car, who likes US car. So because they think that it's a different variety, same US resident, they like Japanese cars, they like German cars and other countries' cars. So this is because of their taste preference. So their taste preference is more for other countries' car than the taste preference for their own countries. Same is here, no? We have some product here, but the taste preference is for a product, same product, but it is produced in some other countries. So that's why we have inter-industry trade. Then this is a product cycle model. So advanced industrialized countries, they develop and introduce new product. So when a country introduce a new product, then they have the monopoly power because they only have the technology to produce that product, and the rest of the world they don't have the technology and they don't have the right to produce that product even if they have technology. So that country which produces a product, they that country possesses international monopoly power and will be the sole exporter of that product. Now once you have a monopoly power, okay, monopoly, then you can be a price setter, no? They set the price, and normally you can see that the product which are produced by advanced countries, mainly the electronic products, initially when they come in the market, their price is very high, and then gradually other countries also know the technology. Okay, when the technology of the product become widespread, and the other countries will also start the production of that product. Just like something was produced by Japan, so because the cost of production in Japan is very high, labor is very expensive, rent rent is very expensive, you know, rent for land is very expensive. So that's why if you see the product which is developed by Japan, and then they produce initially their cost, because their cost is very high, therefore the price is very high. Then gradually we see that the technology is transferred to some other country like China, and then China starts production of that good. And then because China produces that good at a larger scale, so they have economies of scale, and their market is the rest of the world. So then this product becomes available to other countries at a lower cost. Even the cost would be such low that the country that developed that product would be the importer of that product. So initially, that country is the exporter, sole exporter. Okay. Then, when the technology becomes widespread and other nations also start producing that goods, then the nation which has produced that product, developed that product, will be the importer. Okay. So as production becomes standardized, the original introducer of the product loses its technologically based comparative advantage in the production of the product and becomes an importer of the product. Just like we can see that there are many products which are produced by Japan, and then China started to produce that product. The patent rights were transferred to Chinese firm, and then Japan started to import those products because the cost of production in China is lower compared to Japan. So if you go to Japan, you will see that most of the product are made in China, and it is very difficult to find made in Japan. I was more than 5 years in Japan, so I always try to find out product which is made in Japan, and it was very difficult to get product made in Japan, and they were very expensive. And even in Japan, most of the products are made in China. So this is a product cycle model. So initially, the country developed that product, the country is the sole exporter of that product, and then the technology is transferred to other countries, patent right is transferred to other countries, then other countries start producing that product, and then the country which has produced the product will lose the comparative advantage and then start importing the same product. Just like we can see example of product cycle for television. So initially, you see television, there was a development of television set, and that was black and white. Then we can see that there was color television. For color television, then we have LCD television, then we have smart television. So initially, a country developed that product, and then other countries also start producing that product. So this is a good example of product cycle model. You can remember that initially we had television which were made in Japan. It's like Sony and Sanyo, and then after that it was very difficult to get a television set which is made in Japan. So we have television set made in Malaysia, made in Singapore, and then made in China, all these. And even now in Japan, it would be difficult to get a television set which is made in Japan. They are made in Malaysia and Singapore, Taiwan and China, other. So all these products are made in other countries. Then we have transportation cost model of trade. If you remember, we assume that transportation cost is zero. It means there is no transportation cost. Then we were discussing the principle of absolute advantage. One of the assumption of that principle was that transportation cost is zero. But in reality, transportation cost is not zero. Okay, so in transportation cost we include freight charges, warehousing cost, and cost of loading and unloading, insurance premium and interest charges, all these things. So in reality, transportation cost is not zero. Now the question is, if there is a transportation cost, then how it will affect the international trade. Okay, so If there is a transportation cost, sometime it will eliminate countries' comparative advantage. As tradable and non-tradable. Okay, so if the price differential is more than transportation cost, then we will say that this product is tradable. Otherwise, non-tradable. For example, if the price of a product in Pakistan in terms of dollar is $100 and the price of the same product in United States is $150. Now, if there is a transportation cost of $20, then this product will be tradable or non-tradable. Yes. Price in Pakistan is $100. Price in United States is $150. Transportation cost is $20. So this would be traded or not? This good? Yes. Yes. Will be tradable or non-tradable?
Sir, I think it would be tradable.
Yes, it would be tradable because the price here in Pakistan is $100. If you take that good to United States, you will add $20 transportation cost. So the cost will become 120. Then still the price in United States is 150. So still you have a profit margin of $30. But if the price, so that could become tradable. But if the price in Pakistan is $100, price in United States is $150, and the transportation cost is $60, then that would become non-tradable. Because
Non-tradable.
yes, if you buy from here $100 and add $60, then it will cost you $160 when the product reach United States. But that product is already available in United States in $100, and who will buy from you? So that's why transportation costs sometimes eliminate countries' comparative advantage. So high cost may result in an item not being able to be traded. Okay, so then if there are high transportation costs and that transportation cost is higher than the price differential, then that good would become non-tradable. If the transportation cost is lower than the price differential, then that good will become tradable. Like highly perishable goods also suffer, and because it requires quick transportation, perishable foods. So quick transportation means high transportation cost. You have to send it through by air, and if you are sending something by air, then transportation cost will be very high. If you are sending by sea, okay, then the transportation cost would be lower. Okay, then same we have by road. So that's why the food product, uh, most of the food product it cannot be traded because of high transportation cost. Now look at this graph. I will explain the transportation cost model. This is a simple partial equilibrium analysis. We have demand for X, we have supply of X, and this is nation 2. Okay, so this means in nation 2, what is the equilibrium price of X? Yes. What is the equilibrium price of X in nation 2? It's very
It's
simple
11.
microeconomics. $11. Okay, so because here there is equilibrium where quantity demanded equals quantity supply. So we take here. This is $11. And if I go down here, equilibrium quantity is 50.
50.
Okay, so in nation 2, the equilibrium price for X is $11 and equilibrium quantity. So 50 units are produced and consumed, and there is equilibrium. This part is nation 1. Now this is also same graph, but you can see here it's from 0 to 30, 50 like this. Here also we have positive number. So this is not the second quadrant. This is also still the first quadrant, no? Where we have both X and Y are positive. So here X is positive and price of X is positive because here we have positive values. Normally in the second quadrant X is negative, no? But here you can see that this is 30, 50. So that's why this is the supply of X in nation 1, and this is also in accordance with the law of supply. And law of supply says that holding other factors constant, as price increases, quantity supply will also increase. So you can see that when price is this is when price is this. So as price is increasing, the quantity supply is increasing. Okay. So this supply curve is same as this supply curve. Same is with this demand curve. Okay, so and this demand curve is also in accordance with the law of demand, and holding other factors constant, when price increases, quantity demand decreases. So you can see that when it is 0, quantity demand is 100. When as price increases, so when it increases to $3, when we have 70. When it increases to $7, then it is 30. So as price is increasing, quantity demand is decreasing. And what is the equilibrium price of X in nation 1? Yes,
5.
5.
It's 5.
yes, it's $5.
5.
5.
5.
Yes. So in nation 1, the price of X is $5. In nation 2, the price of X is $11. So there exists a price differential. Now, suppose the transportation cost is $2. Okay. Now, if here in nation 1, the price is $7. So at $7, what would be the quantity demand and what would be the quantity supplied for nation 1 if the price is $7? Yes. Any answer? Price is $7. What is the quantity demand for X and quantity supply for X in nation 1?
सर क्वांटिटी डिमांड 30 हो जाएगी
Hmm.
और क्वांटिटी
और
सप्लाई 70 समथिंग 70
70 है, ठीक है ना? Okay. So this means the price of X is $7 in nation 1, quantity demand is 30. There is excess demand or excess supply?
सर एक्सेस
Sir,
सप्लाई है
it's an excess supply.
Yes. There is excess supply of how many units?
40
So,
Yes,
40.
40. 70 minus 30 is 40. So this 40 units is the excess supply, and excess supply would be exported to this nation 1. Now in nation 1, because here the price is $7 and we have to add $2 transportation cost. So in nation 2, the price would be $9. So if the price is $9, uh, what is the situation in nation 2? Quantity
सर
demand and quantity.
क्वांटिटी डिमांड जो होगी वो 30 होगी नहीं क्वांटिटी डिमांड जो हो जाएगी वो आई थिंक 80 है और क्वांटिटी सप्लाई जो है वो 30 है
यहाँ से
70 quantity
So
demand is
70 or 30?
क्वांटिटी सप्लाई 30 है क्वांटिटी
quantity
डिमांड 70 है
70 है
quantity
quantity demand.
ठीक है ना तो फिर दिस मीन्स व्हेन प्राइस इज $9 ये हुआ कि $7 पे हमारे पास नेशन 1 में एक्सेस सप्लाई था of 40 units of X and this would be exported and the $7 plus $2 transportation cost. So then quantity supplied in nation 2 is 30, quantity demand is 70. So 70 minus 30 is 40. So this 40 is excess demand or excess supply?
excess demand.
Excess demand. And this excess demand would be
Excess
fulfilled
demand.
through yes.
Excess
So
demand.
this excess demand would be fulfilled through imports. Okay. So इसको 40 units की excess demand है and this would be fulfilled through import. Now in this case you can see that even if there is a transportation cost, there is export, there is import. So we have trade and in this case balance. No?
Yes, sir.
Exports 30x are equal to import of 30x.
Yes, sir.
Now my question is, if there is no transportation cost, then what will happen to the volume of trade? Volume of trade will increase, volume of trade will decrease, or volume of trade would remain same.
It would
If
be increasing.
here,
It
here we say
increases.
it will increase, no?
Yes.
So here,
Yes,
there
sir.
was, now if suppose we assume that there is no transportation cost, so then the price here is $8 in nation 1. So if in nation 1 price of X is $8, so then this is 20 is the quantity demand and we have to move here, then 80 is the quantity supplied. Okay, so 80 minus 20 is 60, so 60 units would be exported. And because there is no transportation cost, so if $8 is price in nation 1, same $8 would be the price in nation 2. So at $8 quantity supplied in nation 2 is 20, quantity demand in nation 2 is 80, so 80 minus 20 is 60, so 60 units of X would be imported. So again trade is balanced, but now we can see that volume of trade has increased. Before the trade was for 40 units, now the trade is for 60 units. So when transportation cost is 0, there is more trade. So this means as the transportation cost reduces, the volume of trade will increase. So that's why, in real world, we can see that before there were many goods that were non-tradable, but now we have reduced the transportation cost and then there is more trade. You can see now the things are compact. Just look at the computer 10 years ago and 20 years ago. There were very big monitors, big television set, and big printer and big CPU. Okay, but now we have compact. No? So when you have compact, so it means when you are transporting these product, suppose through container, then they will occupy a smaller space and then more items would be transported and then transportation cost reduce. Okay, so that's why we are moving towards lower and lower transportation costs. In the past the transportation cost was very high, but now the transportation cost is decreasing. Even there were some product like furniture and all these items in the past they were not traded, but now we make them compact and then again assembling is in the country where it reaches. Okay. So transportation costs may provide an advantage for trade between geographically close countries. So those who are closer, then transportation costs would be lower, and then more goods would be tradable. And those countries which are far away, then transportation costs would be higher, and then many products would become non-tradable. So that's why there is trade between Canada, Mexico, and USA, and they also have agreement. What is that agreement? Do you remember there is a free trade agreement between US, Canada, and Mexico? Anyone remember what is that agreement? Yes. There is a free trade agreement, Canada, Mexico, and USA.
Yes, sir.
Anyone remember that free trade agreement? What is that called? NAFTA, no?
Yes, sir.
Is North American Free Trade Agreement.
Agreement, yes, sir.
Okay. Then we have environmental standards. So what do you think? If there are strict environmental standards, then the volume of trade will increase or decrease? Yes. If there are strict environmental standards, then
सर
what will happen?
डिक्रीज होगा
Why?
Trade will be
सर क्योंकि
decreased.
सर लोग ट्रेड नहीं करेंगे ऐसे उस पे मतलब जिस पे उनको ज़्यादा टैक्स पे करने पड़े या रिस्ट्रिक्शन ज़्यादा हो
इन्वायरमेंटल स्टैंडर्ड को फॉलो है ना, एक इंडस्ट्री है उसको इन्वायरमेंटल स्टैंडर्ड को फॉलो करना है, तो फिर अगर स्ट्रिक्ट इन्वायरमेंटल स्टैंडर्ड्स होंगे तो किस चीज़ पे इफेक्ट होगा उनकी?
सर उनकी
सर उनके
प्रोडक्शन पे होगा
उनके प्रॉफिट पे होगा इफेक्ट।
प्रॉफिट पे किस तरह इफेक्ट होगा, क्या चीज़ बढ़ जाएगी उनकी?
सर
उनकी cost
उनका जो है क्या कहते हैं
यस, किसने
उन,
कहा कॉस्ट? किसने कहा
तो
कॉस्ट? किसने
सर
कहा?
उनकी ट्रांसपोर्टेशन कॉस्ट
sir
बढ़ेगी क्योंकि वो
ट्रांसपोर्टेशन कॉस्ट तो बाद में आएगी ना,
Aisha.
पहले क्या होगी? अगर हमने पाकिस्तान में हमने कह दिया कि अब स्ट्रिक्ट इन्वायरमेंटल स्टैंडर्ड होंगे, आपका जो वेस्ट है वो प्रॉपरली डिस्पोज ऑफ होगा, तो उससे क्या होगा? जो फर्म है और जो इंडस्ट्रीज़ हैं
कॉस्ट
उनकी
बढ़ेगी
कॉस्ट
बिकॉज
ऑफ प्रोडक्शन
इस
बढ़
पे
जाएगी ना।
फर्दर
अभी जो है वो
यस
वहाँ
सर
कोई भी गार्बेज वहाँ से इंडस्ट्रियल जो वेस्ट है उसको लिया वो कहीं पे भी डंप कर देते हैं,
Cost
लेकिन अगर इन्वायरमेंटल जो स्टैंडर्ड्स हैं वो स्ट्रिक्ट हो जाएं कि आप इसको प्रॉपरली लें और प्रॉपर प्लेस पे इसको डंप करें, तो इससे ये होगा कि उनकी कॉस्ट जो है ना वो बढ़ जाएगी. सो दैट्स व्हाई
यस सर
so a nation's environmental standard determine the level of acceptable pollution that may be generated from production. Strict environmental standards are expected to raise the cost of production. So if there are strict environmental standards, so in developed countries they have strict environmental standards. Okay, but in developing countries we don't have such strict environmental standards. Okay, and that's why pollution level is also increasing. Okay, so these increased costs may reduce or remove the country's comparative advantage. So before strict environmental standard, you have comparative advantage in that product, but if there are strict environmental standards, so then cost of production will increase, and this may eliminate or reduce your comparative advantage. So in order to maintain comparative advantage, a nation may reduce its environmental production. Okay, so that's why they compromise on environmental standards. So many countries, to maintain their comparative advantage, they compromise on environmental standard, and this may spur a race to bottom. So then you are compromising and reducing, and then to maintain their comparative advantage. So each country, if one country started to compromise on environmental standard, to maintain their comparative advantage, then the other country will retaliate. They will also start compromising on environmental standards, and this may spur a race to bottom. Okay, so I finish this lecture.